The shelter, it's like these 4 gigantic houses that were built in a way to look like apartments, but it's only 4 homes. Now, the house is 2 stories high, so there's an apartment on the bottom, an apartment on the top, and each house has 4 apartments total. And there's a giant white picket fence wrapping each house with that white picket fence. And where we stayed at was at the back of the shelter, closer towards this. They had this pond in the back, so that's where we stayed. That first week that we moved in, I was laying on my bed. I was playing my PlayStation 2 and I was getting ready to go to bed. And 3 knocks. It was right by my head on the wall. Now, where my wall is, it's towards that pond. So I don't have a neighbor that's next to me that's just randomly knocking on the wall. It was like towards the back, and I have a window that points towards that pond, and I looked out the window. There was nothing there. I always leave my TV on because I've always had the fear of just being in the dark. I don't like being in pure darkness. I guess because of those certain experiences that I had. I heard the knocks again, and I had my cover over my face. I remember I did leave my TV on and I had something playing because I can hear it, but when I peeked out through my cover, my entire room was completely dark. I just remember feeling my heart on my chest, and I quickly covered my head, and I remember saying out loud, "No, leave me alone," and the knocking stopped. I gave it like a few minutes. I peeked back out and everything was back to normal. I could see what was playing on my TV, and I was like, that was really weird. I don't even know how that happened. I want to say like 45 minutes to like an hour later, I was nodding off again, and when I was getting ready to fall asleep, all of a sudden there was this loud bang on the wall, and it made like my bed shake, and the pictures that I had on my wall were like shaking, and I'm like, okay, that was terrifying. I could not explain why something like that happened, but I just remember sitting back up and I put a video game on and I started playing, and I did not fall asleep for the rest of that night. All I know was like around the same time period, I got up and I was getting ready to go to school, and I walked towards my closet. So my room, it is completely covered in carpet, including my closet. So I went up to go get my clothes from my closet so that way I could get ready for school, and I started feeling like I was being bit, and my legs were on fire. And I'm like, what? And I look down and my feet are completely covered in fire ants. And I freak out and I yell to my mom while I'm smacking all these ants from my legs. And I'm like, Ma, like, where did these ants come from? I understand. My mind, I thought maybe there was an opening on the floor because it was still like a brand new shelter. So I'm like, maybe the ants got in somehow, I don't know, but we could not find an explanation as to why and how they got in. We couldn't find a crack in the wall, and I was trying to make sense of it. But the weird part about that was the very next day, those ants were gone. Something like that doesn't just disappear in a day. I was staying home. School was already over and my mom had to go to work. I suffer with like migraines, and the heat from the bath tends to help alleviate my migraine. I had this really bad migraine, and I got my bath ready and I went into the bathroom and I laid down in the bathtub, and I started hearing those knocks on the bathtub. Again, the 3 knocks. And for some reason this day, I decided to be brave and I knocked back, and it stopped. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess that's what I had to do. Or I don't even know why I knocked back, but I just laid there with my eyes closed, and all of a sudden, I start feeling in the back of my head. It was like these sharp, the best way I can describe it is like these sharp claws or talons or nails in the back of my head. And I felt 4. And it started from like the middle of my head. And I feel it spread out to grab my hair. And I start feeling like my hair is slowly being pulled down in the bathtub. At that point, I freaked out. I jumped out of the bathtub. I put on whatever clothes I could find, and I left my house, and I did not come back until my mom came home 6 hours later. There was another night where I was laying in bed, and I was in and out of sleep, and I had my PlayStation controller in my hand, and I started feeling that heavy feeling again. I just remember hearing this deep demonic laughter, and the way that it sounded, sounded like a very guttural, like laughter. It sounded like a man. How it was traveling throughout my room, it sounded like it was like flying, just swirling throughout my room. It went from the laughter to a whisper, and then it went towards the closet where those ants were that day that I was getting ready for school. And when I look in the corner, I remember seeing just that black mass, that dark man, that demon just in the corner. I run to turn on my light, and it was gone. After that experience at the shelter, things were starting to look up. She got a good job. We were able to move into a condo, which was actually not that far from the shelter that we lived at. And this condo, it's like a 1-floor condo. Once you go in through the doors, there's my room, which was to the right, a second bedroom, which is to the left, and the bathroom. And you go further up a little bit more, and there's a kitchen towards the living room. You go down, living room's right there. My mom's room is to the left, and the patio is in the back. My mom, she had someone come over from the church to pray over the apartment. When the guy came over, he was talking to my mom. They were having a conversation in the living room, and my sister ended up moving back with us after she gave birth to her first child. So she was there too. While my mom was talking to the guy, I started getting this feeling again like I was being watched. And I turned towards the hallway where my sister's room is, and a head poked out from that corner. And my sister knows when I see something or I feel something, and I was just fixated on it. My sister broke me out of the trance. She tapped me on the shoulder. She's like, "Hey, what do you see?" And I didn't want to freak my sister out, and I'm like, "Nothing, don't worry about it." And I didn't tell her until after we moved out. When we moved out of there, I want to say I was like 19. I finally got my own place. My ex-fiance at the time, we moved into our own apartment. He knew that I was sensitive to seeing things and feeling things. So there was one night, our apartment, I was laying in bed, and I just remember being like, I was awake, but my eyes were closed, and I felt very uneasy. And when I opened my eyes, there was that same dark shadow man standing in front of me. And when I looked towards my ex, there was another dark shadow man in front of him. And I'm tapping him, and I didn't know what to do, so I started tapping him. And I knew I didn't have sleep paralysis at that moment. So I was tapping him, and I'm like, "Hey, we need to pray. There's something here." He started praying, And when I tried to go open up my mouth to start praying, it felt like someone was holding my mouth closed. But I'm seeing this thing in front of me and it hasn't moved, but I feel like a mouth is over my hand and I cannot pray. And my ex sees it and he tells me, you have to try. If you don't say anything, you're giving them more power. Like, you have to fight it. It was just very hard because I was trying to say something and I just couldn't, and I was getting so angry. And finally, when I was able to break out of it, I started praying. At that point, I was like screaming at the top of my lungs, like praying and everything. Once I felt that uneasiness and heaviness go away, I opened my eyes and everything was back to normal. Oh, that was just a very freaky experience. But as of recently this year, I was living with my ex again in his apartment. We have twin daughters. They just turned 2. And I was sitting in the couch, sitting in the living room, and I was getting ready to tell my daughters to go to bed because it was already late. But they were playing in their room, and they came out, and I saw them come out of their room to go to the kitchen, and I normally leave their sippy cups filled with water so they can easily access it. So they went to the kitchen to get their water, and I put my head down, and I'm looking at my phone, so I put my head down, and that feeling again, like I was being watched, I looked up and towards my daughter's bedroom, and it looks like it's like a child size. I can't make up features, but I thought it was like my daughter's. It was like this child size figure, and it was peeking out. And when I noticed it, within a few seconds, it went back into my daughter's room. And I'm like, maybe my daughter's walked past me. But at that moment, while I was questioning what was going on, both of my daughters came from the kitchen. And I just remember jumping up off that couch and running towards my daughter's room, turning on the light and looking everywhere. And I could not find anything. At that point, I was stumped. I don't want to seem crazy to people, but at times like that, like you feel like you're going crazy. Like maybe it's just, maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know. After a few months, I ended up moving into my own apartment with my current boyfriend. And it was around 7 p.m. I was in my bedroom. I was getting stuff for my daughter to get ready to put them to bed. I was leaving through the bathroom door, which to the right of the bathroom door is the linen closet. To the left is the door for my bedroom. And straight ahead, you can see my daughter's room. So I left the bathroom, and I just remember as I took like that first step, my cat, she started freaking out. And I'm like, I've never seen her do that. And her tail is puffed up, and she looks like she's about to attack something, and she's growling, and she's looking, I thought at the moment she was looking at me, but in reality, she was looking behind me. And I took another step in front of that linen closet. Oh, that still gives me chills just thinking about it. I took another step in front of that linen closet, and all I remember feeling on the side of my face, it was hot, like someone was breathing on the side of my face. It whispered in my ear, and I said, I froze. I was terrified. Still talking about it freaks me out to the point where I have to hold back tears because it's unreal. Like you don't have an explanation for it. I'm like, I have to compose myself because my daughters, they're right there, and if I freak out, they're gonna freak out. I need to be strong, and I will address that later. But all I did at that moment, I turned towards it and I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and I left it at that. And I put a smile on my face and I told my daughters it's time to go to bed. like a few days after that experience, I was in the bathroom with my daughter. I was getting her dressed because I just gave her a bath. I'm looking at the door and I don't know, I just felt uneasy. So I'm putting on my daughter's clothes, and at the corner of my eye, like my peripherals, I see the door handle move. And it only moves, obviously, if someone's on the other side fiddling with it. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's my other daughter trying to come in, or my boyfriend. And I still see it like fiddle. Once I see it like pulled down, I grabbed it and I pulled it open, and there was nothing there. And I'm like, there's no way that my daughter ran that quickly from here to the living room. And there's no way that I did not hear her feet. And I'm trying to keep calm. And one of my daughters, the daughter that I was changing, she was looking towards the top of the door. And she's looking up at it. And I'm like, what do you see? And she's looking at it, and then she like breaks out of it after a few seconds. And I grab her and I put her in her bedroom so she could go to sleep. When I lived in that shelter, I did have a vivid dream. And in this dream, I was on my bed. I woke up and all the doors, all the cabinets were open, and I'm walking throughout my apartment, and I remember looking towards the front door and it's wide open. I notice that there's this boy sitting in front of my door on the floor, and he's like sitting crisscross in front of my door. He had like grayish skin. He had these khaki pants. He was barefoot. He didn't have a shirt on. He had this bowl cut with black hair. When I saw his eyes, they were just pure black. And he's looking at me. And I remember feeling afraid, but I don't really know why I felt so afraid. When I look down, because I started noticing like this movement to the side of him, and there's like this snake. It's like this black snake, and it's like moving in a way where it's about to bite. So he tells me something, and at first I didn't hear him, but he says it again, and he says, "Wake up." And I woke up. But when I woke up, like, I just remember feeling uneasy. That story ties into what I'm about to say. It was actually a few weeks ago now. I was laying in bed, I was playing my PlayStation 4, and I remember feeling like I was being watched again. And at that point, it was a different kind of fear, like I was in danger, and I could not explain why. So I'm like, why do I feel this feeling? And from the corner of my eye, I see something poking its head out from the hallway where my door is to the hallway. And I see that thing, that boy that I saw in my dream, poke its head out. And it was so creepy because it looked like he had this smile on his face, like he was enjoying this. And that boy that was in my dream, it seemed like he wanted to play games with me. Like, I felt like he was just playing peekaboo. And everything just started making sense. And it's still terrifying to think back on it, but the features were all still the same. He still had the same haircut, the same black bowl haircut that he had. Skin was the same color, eyes black. But this time he had a grin on his face, and he disappeared. I went towards like my daughter's room, and I started saying a prayer throughout the entire apartment, and it's just something that I don't know what to do to fight it or to make it stop, because now it's affecting my daughters too. They just point at a random area and they go, "Mommy, look, ghost." I'm like, I know I don't teach them anything like that. The only thing that comes to mind is like the certain videos that they see. It teaches them, it's like a song, and it teaches them different nursery rhymes and everything. And they have a Halloween one, so they have this ghost little thing, but how they react to it, it's very freaky, because it's not like a child-sized ghost. Like, they'll point upwards like someone who's like taller than me and say, "Ma, ghost." And it's very terrifying, because I don't know if things will only get worse or if it'll start becoming like more, if it'll be malicious in a way. I feel physically and mentally drained. It's frustrating because you feel helpless and you don't know what to do to stop it, and you don't want it to get worse, and you don't want it to hurt your family. All I can do is just pray and hope that whatever it is eventually stops or it doesn't get worse. But I don't want to say that it's a demon, because I don't want to give it that power, but it's something that it's just attached to me. After that experience with my mom and the first place that we lived at, that's when I started noticing more things, and still to this day, it's still bothering me. I think it's just a bad spirit that's just trying to play with me